Hi everyone, so it's Christina here. I'm from a digital marketing agency called Green Umbrella Marketing. We've been in business, this is our 11th year now, and over that time we've helped lots of small, medium business owners to make social media work for them. So I always say I work with people that lack the time, the enthusiasm, or perhaps even the courage to make online work. Today, I'm going to be talking to you about social advertising. I've got about 40 minutes to do that in. As I'm going through the content, any questions that you might have, please just drop them into the chat. And then what we're going to do is we'll do a wrap up at the end of the session to work through those questions, because we might find that some of your questions get answered throughout the content. Recording's going to come over. You'll also have access to the slides as well. So if there's anything you're trying to copy down from the slides, don't worry too much, because you will have those available. So 40 minutes isn't a huge amount of time for me to cover this subject, so I'm going to dive straight in. And the thing, first of all, that I want to talk to you about is basically, why do we click that boost button? You've probably seen it on Facebook. It used to be a blue button that said boost, and you would, Facebook would say to you, spend like 15 quid on this or £3 on that, and your post will be seen by hundreds of thousands of people. And we'd get really excited, we'd hit the button, we'd pay the money to get that boost on our posts. Right now, you're seeing things like promote rather than the word boost, because what's happened is we've come to understand that there are so many options available to us when it comes to social advertising. And throughout this, I will talk more about advertising on Facebook, but all the rules apply when you're looking at LinkedIn advertising or advertising on Instagram as well, okay? So all of this information I'm sharing with you applies to all of your social ads, Twitter ads as well. But what happens is, with these simple call to actions that we see that kind of, flash lights at you saying, click me, it's a bit like getting the low-hanging fruit. If you imagine you're in an apple orchard, it's really easy just to sort of reach and grab that apple from the bottom of the tree or pick one up off the floor. But if you want that really juicy apple that's had the sun, that's had the rainwater, that's absolutely beautiful, that's going to be right on the highest branch, and it's going to take a bit of effort to go and get a ladder and scrabble up that tree and get that prized beautiful apple. Well, it's kind of the same with your advertising. Hitting boost is like your low-hanging fruit. If you want to get the best results, we're going to have to put some work in to go and find those juicy opportunities that are really going to help you see a return on your investment. One of the things that happens quite often is that people will tell me, well, I tried Facebook ads, it didn't work for me. I tried LinkedIn ads, didn't get anything. And it's because they're not using these campaigns and really leveraging them. They're just going for the easy wins. And what you'll find with social advertising is that the easy wins are never really a win. So one of the things that we need to understand with this, is there are some initial questions we need to ask ourselves before we even click in and start to do work with social ads. So I'm going to run through what these questions are. My clicker appears to have stopped working, so I'm just going to move it a bit closer for you. So there's 5 questions I want you to ask whenever you are looking at setting up an event. And I'm going to run through these in a bit more detail. But it's essentially, who will I target? What am I communicating through this advert? Where do I want my advert to show? When am I going to measure my results? And why am I running this advert? Okay. And then I've thrown in a 6th thing here as well. I want you to be really clear about how much you're willing to spend before you've even started your ad. And that's really, really important, because with social advertising, it's all real time. And if something appears to be going well, you'll get messages from Facebook, messages from LinkedIn saying, why don't you add another £50 to your budget? Okay, so I want you to be really clear on these questions. Now, I'm going to run through these in a bit more detail, explain more about what they actually mean. But just before I do that, I want you to really understand that any social adverts, we always refer to them as ads. Okay, and the ad is that little bit of creative that you see in your feed, that image with a bit of the text, the copy above the image. That isn't an ad, but that ad actually sits under a campaign. So your campaign is like your overarching, your umbrella for your ad. Okay, what you're paying for is not that individual advert, you're paying for a campaign to run. Your campaign is made up of ad sets. Okay, and if you think of an ad set as being, that's what holds the settings for this campaign. So we'll talk about targeting, we'll talk about placement within the ad set. And it's only then under that that the individual ads sit. Okay, so when you boost a post, when you hit promote on something, what you're actually paying for is this one ad to appear in people's feeds. You don't get access to the full settings available under an ad set, and you're not actively choosing what type of campaign you want to run. So if you're going to spend money on social advertising, you need to be using the ad manager in Facebook. That will allow you to run adverts on Facebook and Instagram, or you need to be going into campaign manager on LinkedIn, and that's what controls the ads there. Now, when you go in that way, you choose what type of campaign you want to run, what the objective is going to be. You can create an ad set, but you can actually create multiple ad sets. And you can create, instead of just one ad under that ad set, you can create multiple ad sets as well. And it's going to cost you the same money. So instead of hitting promote and saying, right, £50, I'm going to have this one post appearing in people's feeds, you could still spend £50, but have 6 versions of that appearing in people's feeds. You could also split it out so that you've got 6 versions that are just going into the feeds of on Instagram, and 6 versions that are going into the feeds on Facebook. And again, it's still costing you that same amount of money. So we're able to make sure that our adverts are far more efficient because we're going through this way. So like I said, if you just remember, we've got a 3-step process. We need to think about the campaign. The campaign breaks down into ad sets, and then under ad sets, we get the individual ads that people will be seeing themselves. So if we think about campaign level, we'll go back to that question, why am I running this advert? We're going to set an objective, and there's about 13 different objectives we can choose from, but the ones that I would draw your attention to are traffic ads. So if you run a traffic ad, Facebook will put this post, this ad, into the feed of people that are likely to click through to your website, okay, or to wherever you direct them. If you've got an app, you might want to send traffic to your app. Okay, and the same thing on Instagram. It's whether it's going into the feed on Instagram or into stories on Instagram, it's going to show it to people that it thinks are most likely to actually click through. Sometimes you just want to run an advert because you need the engagement from your audience. Maybe you're testing a concept or something like that, and you want to say, okay, are people liking this post? Are they sharing? Are they commenting? Sometimes you'll run a lead generation ad, and the objective of that is to get data out of people. And sometimes you'll run a video views ad. Now, let's say you've got a 30-second video, you would run that ad and you'd say, right, I want people to watch at least the first 10 seconds of this advert. And again, what Facebook is trying to do is achieve for you people that have completed that objective. They've watched that portion of your video. Like I said, there's about 13 different options in terms of these objectives, and they all fit into your sales funnel or your marketing funnel in different ways. But these are generally the 4 key types of advert, the key campaign objectives that I would suggest you opt for. And I would say I say that with confidence. We work predominantly with independent recruitment agencies, but I also work with accountants and electrical engineers, and I've even had pet crematoriums as clients. So I know these 4 campaign objectives, they really do work across all sectors and industries. When you're looking at these, your brand awareness, that's the equivalent to boost. All that promote is going to do is put that post in someone's feed, and if it's been seen, it's completed its objective. Okay, and this is the difference. For me, that's not enough. I don't just want my ads to be seen, I want them to be some sort of measurable outcome that I can use going forward. So next question for us to look at refers to the ad set stage, and that's who will I target. We've got 3 types of audiences. We have our targeted or our core audiences, sometimes within the language of Facebook particularly. You can then save these and they'll be called saved audiences. And this is where we can kind of say male, female, this type of age, this location. We can put in interests and behaviours. We want people that follow pages to do with dogs, maybe, because maybe we sell something that dog lovers would want to buy. We also have custom audiences. Okay, now custom audiences are built off a set of data. So you could build a custom audience by using email addresses in your database. You could upload that information to Facebook and say, I want my advert to be shown to the people on this database. We can create a custom audience by saying people that have watched 50% of these videos that I've shared on Facebook. Custom audience might be based on people that have visited my website in the last 30 days. Okay, so custom audiences are from a very specific data set, either data you're providing or data that Facebook's able to access for you. And then the third thing we've got is lookalike audiences. Now with that lookalike audience, what it will do is it will look at the data from your custom audience, and essentially Facebook then does the data mining, and it goes and it finds other people that look like that. So let's say, like I said, 70% of our business is with recruitment agencies. And we have pages on our website that are very much optimized for recruiters. So if I said to Facebook, here's a data set, here's all the people that have been on these pages on my website, I know that it's likely to all be recruiters. If I ask Facebook to create a lookalike audience, it will go and find people that look like those recruiters who have been on those pages. Does that make sense in terms of the audiences? If you can just pop into the chat and just sort of like, yeah, I'm with you, Christina, I get it. Just give me a yes or a no, because that's a point in this where I can sometimes start to lose people. So I'm just going to wait. Excellent, brilliant. Had a couple of responses there. Fantastic. Okie dokie. So, like I said, thinking about the audiences in a little more detail, I've put in the slides there to give you an idea of your custom audiences. These are the data sets essentially we can use. So I've talked about website traffic. You know, if you do have an app and you've got people that are sort of active users of your app, you can tap into that. Customer lists. Offline activity, people tend not to use, to be honest. That's more when you've got a shop front, people coming into your shop. Most of our clients, well, especially now at the minute, but that's something that doesn't get used so much. But we can do things like, so iconic, you know, they might say, right, anyone that has, if they put their events on Facebook and they say anyone that's engaged with our events, we want to run an advert that's shown to those people that have engaged with our events on Facebook. Okay, so Facebook will use that data set. You can also use your Facebook page. So people that have engaged with your Facebook page, you can create a custom audience based off of that as well. Okie dokie. So you're still at that ad set level now. We want to think about where you're going to place your advert. Now, Facebook will automatically choose where your advert's going to show, but you want to make sure you've got control of that, okay? Depending on the objective, there are some places the advert will and won't show. But if you go into that and you delve a little bit deeper, you can then kind of turn things on and off, okay? So if you went, actually, I've got this website traffic campaign running, but I don't want this shown on Instagram, you can untick Instagram, otherwise it would be there by default. Okay, if you don't want your ads to appear in Facebook Messenger, you could turn that off. So it's really important you understand exactly where your ads are going to be placed. Because at the end of the day, when you do the creative, when you're actually doing the visuals, when you're thinking about the copy, you've got to make sure that those adverts are going to run in all placements. They're going to look good in all placements. So it might be easy if you say, actually, I just want this to be within the newsfeed, on mobile devices, on Facebook. I don't want it to be anywhere else. So you're going to have that power. And you've got to make sure that depending on what you're selling, and you will know who your ideal client is, you want to make sure your ads are being placed where people are going to make their buying decisions. Okay, so the other thing that we look at under ad set is how much you're going to spend. And again, this is where a lot of people make a mistake. There are two ways of managing your budget. You have a lifetime budget. So, you know, for the whole time this campaign runs, I only want to spend 15 quid or, you know, 15,000 quid, whatever it's going to be. Okay, 15,000 euros. Should be talking in euros, shouldn't I? And then, you know, you've also got, so you've got your lifetime budget, but you've also got a daily budget as well. So I'm happy to spend 10 euros a day on this campaign. Now, what happens is on Tuesday, Facebook says, okay, let's spend 10 euros. And if it only manages to spend 8 euros today, well, tomorrow it starts from zero again. It doesn't get the opportunity to spend that extra couple of euros. So you might say, I'm going to run 10 euros a day for 10 days, but then find you don't actually spend the whole of your budget. And that's because Facebook's doing that reset every day. If you go for a lifetime budget, it might be that Facebook decides to only spend 5 euros today, but it spends 15 tomorrow because it knows there's the likelihood of more of your target audience using the platform tomorrow. Okay, so it'll just manage things for you throughout. I tend to go lifetime budget, especially if you're new to advertising, because that way, Facebook's not like other platforms where it will spend an extra 10% or an extra 20%. If you've put, I want to spend 104 euros, it will spend 104 euros and no more. Okay, so it's a nice, safe way of working. Just always, whatever you do, just always make sure you've got an end date set as well. That's the other thing I've seen people do. They've set it as a daily budget, but they've then not put an end date on, not realizing that it's just going to run forever and forever and forever. And all of a sudden, 6 months later, they get a bill from Facebook and they're like, hold on, why is Facebook taking money out of my account? And it's because they never stopped their ad from running. Okay, so just go lifetime, especially in the early days when you're getting a handle on it. That way you're always in control of how much you're spending. And like I said, decide what you're going to spend before you even get started and stick to it. If I'm going to spend 150 euros on this campaign that's going to run for a week, then we want to see what results you get for that 150 euros. You can run it again and spend 175 or 200 or whatever. Okay, but try not to be caught out with those messages from Facebook going, this is working really, really well, give us more money. Because at the end of the day, this is how they make their money. Okay, Mark Zuckerberg, he's rich enough already. We don't need to give him any extra. Okie dokie. So now I'm on to the ad stage, that third stage in building your ads. And we really want to think at this point, what is it we're going to communicate? So you need to choose a format, first of all, for your advert. So think about the visual. If you are in e-commerce, you might want to, or you're selling some sort of product, you might want to go for a carousel ad. But for most of you, single image or single video, they're going to be the best two options for you, okay? I should, just as a point of note, Facebook Ad Manager is constantly being updated. So the screenshots I've got in here for you, you might log into your account and go, hold on, the screenshot on Christina's slides isn't what I'm seeing on my screen. Right now, when I'm doing one-to-one training with people on this, there's like 3 or 4 different versions of interface, 3 or 4 different versions of Ads Manager that I'm seeing. So as you're working through, just sort of look out for these things. They might be in slightly different places, slightly different orders, but all of these things will be in there. Okay, so like I said, format-wise, for most of you, single image or single video. If you are looking at e-commerce, then maybe a carousel ad as well would work for you. Okay, they're really good for products. So think about what you're communicating and select the right creative, the right image. Now, it used to be that you couldn't use an image if more than 20% of the image had text on it. Now, Facebook's removed that rule, and they did that not long before Christmas, but we're still finding that actually the adverts that work the best are the adverts that have less text on them. So although from a Facebook perspective, we don't need to worry about this rule anymore, as marketers, as advertisers, still really trying to think about your images in that way, okay? Visualize dividing that image into squares, and if 20% of those squares have text within them, then yeah, if it's more than 20% that've got text in, it's probably too text heavy, and you can tweak accordingly. If you put an advert out there and the whole thing is covered in text, people are unlikely to read it. It's like in your brain, it's like, it's too busy, I haven't got time, and you carry on scanning. So just still bear in mind that 20% rule. And make sure that the imagery that you choose is really reflective of the people you want to buy that product, the people you want to buy that service. Because people need to see this and almost have that kind of recognition. They need to have that affinity with what they're seeing in order for them to have that interest and want to connect with you and what you're selling. Then make sure that your message is really, really clear. Now, there are different points within the creative that you can use and you can edit and tweak that will allow you to do this. So you've got your copy just above your image, but if it's something like a link to a website, this information at the bottom of the image gets pulled through automatically. What you can do is actually control the text that's in there as well. Use that to reinforce what you're trying to say through your ads. You want one clear message. You want to tell people to do one thing, and you want to use that call to action button, and make sure that's really clear as well. Tell people what to do, to sign up, etc. Okay, to download now, to book a call. Okay, once you've built your ad, okay, now Facebook's a little bit naughty with this. As you're building your ad, you get a preview of it. Once you've actually set your advert live, if you go back into it again, you'll be able to see like a little share option. And if you click on that, it will actually ping a little message, ping a little notification into Facebook for you. And when you open up the Facebook app and click on that notification, it will show you your ad in feed. And it's really important you do that, because sometimes you're looking at the preview and you're thinking, like, this looks great. The text is really clear, the message is concise, the imagery is fantastic. But then when you're actually looking at it in context within your feed, in the palm of your hand, you're like, oh, doesn't really stand out. Okay, now it's unfortunate that you're only able to do that after you've set the advert live. But one of the beauties with this is the fact that you can edit it straight away. You can edit it at any time. It's not like putting an ad in a newspaper or a magazine. Once it's printed, it's done. We can constantly be tweaking and changing this all the way through. So make sure you definitely do that check. And if you've got multiple placements, you can then see what's this advert going to look like in all of its placements. So once your ad's up and running, we need to think about when you're going to measure your results, okay? I would let the ad run for a week or so, and then I would look at things like your cost per action. You'll get a relevance score on Facebook, and that basically says, a score out of 10, how relevant does your ad seem to the audience? Now, in 11 years, I've only seen like that 10 out of 10 score once or twice. So if you're aiming for like a 6 or 7 out of 10 as a minimum, that's probably a good place to be. It means you can still do some tweaks and make it better. If it's under 6 out of 10, it's unlikely to be doing what you need it to do for you. Okay, so you're better at that point to like pause it, have a really good think about the advert, think about the creative, the copy that you've used, give it a good edit and start it again. You'll also get a score for frequency. So your frequency score is how many times are people seeing it before they take action. Now, if you think just general marketing terms, that we talk about needing to have 12 touch points to get someone to buy from you. If you're trying to sell something through your ads and it's only been seen a couple of times, then being seen a couple of times versus having 12 touch points, you can kind of understand why you're then not getting the result. So sometimes that's about tweaking your audience to make sure your targeting is really on point. Sometimes it's about increasing your budget at that point as well. Okay, so these things they're really important to look at, but don't look at these things just on their own. Look at the three together and work from there. And then when it comes to tweaking stuff, we'll pay attention to the performance of the ad so that we can take that information forward. We'll look to see, actually what age ranges of people have engaged with the ad, have seen it or have completed the objective we wanted them to take. Well, actually, I've run an ad before now that was targeted 18 to 65 plus, and we then found that the people that were engaging most with one particular ad within the campaign were kind of like the 45s to 55s. And there was another set of imagery that the 25s to 35s were engaging with. So next time we ran the ad, we made those changes and we just targeted those two areas. Okay, so it's taking this information forward so that we can make sure that every time we run the next ad and the next one and the next one, it's more specific. We also pay attention to where we're getting the results. So are we getting the results more on mobile versus desktop? Are we getting the results more on the Instagram feed or Instagram stories? That can help us to make sure that we're spending our budget sufficiently going forward. So just to recap on those questions we've covered, and then I've got a few little hacks for you. So who will I target? What am I communicating? Where will I place my ad? When will I measure my results? Why am I running this advert? And how much will I spend? Okay, and if you think about why you're running this advert, be really clear. What you want from running the ad is for people to spend money with you. Okay, whether it's to buy that product or buy that service. But the reality is when you run the ad, when they see the ad, it's why do you want them to see the ad? It's so they complete that objective. It's so they do that thing. So if it is downloading your ebook, your white paper, if it is claiming their voucher, okay, that's your reason why for running that particular advert. And it's really important we're clear on that in our heads, because then we'll make sure we choose the right objective to begin with. Okie dokie. So I've got a couple of hacks for you, and then we'll go into questions. So first hack is be really, really clear, plan your campaign. For most businesses, when we're running adverts for them, we're actually creating 2 or 3 campaigns. And maybe one campaign is very much top of the funnel, and we're looking at choosing engagement as an objective. And then maybe the second campaign is a lead generation objective, and we know that's further down the funnel. So plan those in accordingly. Use the Facebook pixel, and LinkedIn have the insight tag as well. What these are, a bit like Google Analytics, a little bit of code that sits on your website, and basically it's able to track people visiting the site. Now, you might have seen in the news recently, there's been a load of stuff about Facebook advertising and iOS 14, which means we're not going to be able to access the level of information we did have previously, but not everyone uses iPhones. Okay, so we can still get quite a big amount of data from using Facebook Pixel that we can use in our adverts to make sure we're targeting people accordingly. Okay, next hack is use your ad sets to test your audiences. So remember that 3-step process? Well, it might be you have one ad set that is male and a second ad set that is female, and everything else throughout is exactly the same. All the ads you run, all the interests you use, the money you're spending, you can then start to see, actually, is it men or is it women that respond better to this ad? Is it men or is it women that, we thought women were the decision makers, but actually, the adverts being fed to men or people that identify as being male, they're the ones that are performing the best. So we're actually getting more interest there. And then, like I say, make sure you're monitoring results consistently. I would let an advert run for sort of 5 to 7 days, then look at the results, and then essentially diarise it. And every week, look at the results again. So I'd set my ad off, day 5, have a look at the results, maybe make a couple of tweaks, and then giving it a week for those tweaks to implement. And then looking at my results again. Okay, did it work? Did it improve them? Maybe I'm going to make some more tweaks and I'm going to let it run again. Okay, any changes that you make, it's important you actually let that advert run so that you can see the difference in those changes. If every couple of days you're making edits, you'll struggle to see actually what helped and what didn't. Okay, and like I say, you know, for some ads, you'll be constantly tweaking them. For other ads, it might be 2 or 3 tweaks, then actually you're happy forevermore and things are working wonderfully. And then my final hack for you is to commit. So again, when I think about people that tell me that Facebook ads or LinkedIn ads don't work for them, they've run something for 3 days, 5 days, and then basically cried because they haven't had the results that they wanted. Well, I've spent €100 now and I haven't made a sale. Well, actually, if you want your advert to run, you need to be prepared to run it for like 3 months, 6 months as a minimum. So you've got the time to see the results come in, to make the tweaks, to do the tests, to learn what is going to work so that you can get the results and the rewards from your advertising spend. My details are on screen. Feel free to reach out. LinkedIn is the best place to kind of ping me a message or a voice note. That's where you're going to get a quickest response from me at the minute. But yeah, I hope this has been really useful for everyone.